Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the weekly Wednesday for the Financial Freedom newsletter, where every week, every Wednesday, we delve into something inspirational, motivational, something excerpt taken from the Financial Freedom weekly newsletter. Wherever you are, if you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, Google, be sure to click the like, subscribe, share, comment. And without ado, let's get into the show. Welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. I'm really excited about today's guest, Jenn Potter. She's goes by the Instagram handle Jenn at Live Your Best Life. And she's a public figure. She's an entrepreneur, venture builder, and speaker. And she's also into surf therapy and a runner. So I'm really happy to welcome her onto the show and share her expertise. So Jenn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I know we had connected through mutual connection. So, tell people about your story, your background, and we'll get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, my name is Jennifer Potter. I am a serial entrepreneur. I own currently 4 businesses, and I have a 5th with a partnership. I also work with a nonprofit, like you said, surf therapy. I just ran the Boston Marathon, and I also have 3 kids. And just super busy all of the time, but I love everything I do.
Yeah, and I love that. And so, kind of one of the tenets on the podcast is, this idea of freedom. So financial, time, health, location, emotional. And so you have embodiment of all of those, and kind of tell people about, your philosophy, how you got started, how you live your life, mindsets, and we'll get into the work that you do with your clients.
Yeah, I love that. I finally got to the point in my life, and it was a little bit before I turned 40, that I realized that I was burning out very quickly, that I wasn't being efficient with my time, that I wanted to do all of these different things, but I didn't know how to do all of them. And so I started my second business, but the first of the 4 that I currently have. I started an inspirational apparel company because I wanted to teach myself how to run a business. And once I got that off the ground, I realized for me, it came very easily. I really, really loved inspiring and uplifting people. I made a decent amount of money off of the t-shirt company that I invested in myself. I then started a professional babysitting and nannying agency called Mamas and Babysitters, and that launched right before the pandemic. And we were definitely needed at that time. I didn't think my nannying services were going to kick off right away, but 3 months into the business, that was our biggest thing, was, placing nannies with families who needed them for frontline workers. Through there, a lot of people needed to have their house cleaned. And so we offered cleaning services through our babysitting company, but we realized that so many people were asking that weren't current clients. So I started a cleaning company. And for myself included, right? I have 3 kids. I needed a babysitter. So I started a babysitting company. I needed my house cleaned. I started a house cleaning company. And then once I decided that, I really love doing all of those things, my passion lied in helping other people start businesses. So I launched a consulting company, and my consulting company is it's what means the most to me, because it allows me to really teach other people the skill sets of being able to run a business. I mean, I think entrepreneurship comes natural, but it can also be taught. So I think that, teaching people those basic skills helps them to run a business. But then at the same time, I had to teach people how to, manage their time, because a lot of people tend to, be all over the place, think that in order to start a business, you have to work 24/7. Well, you do have to work a lot at first. You don't have to work 24/7 to be efficient. So I actually, all over the country, teach scheduling and time management, how to do all of the things that I do and still have free time. So that's probably one of my favorite things. But if you asked me 5 years ago if I would teach that, I'd probably laugh in your face, because I was that person who was all over the place. But once I realized how to really manage my time and be more efficient, delegate a lot of my responsibilities, I'm making more passive income. I'm able to help other people grow their businesses and be able to live the life that makes me truly happy.
Yeah. So well said. And so, kind of describe what you're doing with clients now, how you're helping them. A lot of the audience on the podcast are female executives, entrepreneurs looking to create side income streams, businesses, maybe jump the full leap into entrepreneurship. So
And that's my favorite. So when I first started, I would tell everybody, I want to work with someone who's like me, which is still true. But at the same time, I kind of had this broad overview. I'm like, I want to help anybody who wants to start a business, who has that brain that's all over the place, right? I have severe ADHD, if you couldn't tell. But for me, it wasn't just that. I started noticing that the people that I had the most effect on were women of my age, between the ages of 35 and 55, who were going through burnout, who realized that they weren't living the life that made them happy. They see me post and they're like, you seem happy all the time. I'm like, because I had to change my life. I was a financial analyst before I started all of these businesses, and I really loved it so much, but it wasn't what brought me joy. I loved doing numbers, but I felt like I was building an empire for somebody else. And so for me, it was really important to, do the things that made me happy at that point in time. And then now I'm able to inspire and help other people do that the same, both whether it's someone who doesn't have a business, who they're an executive and they want to make a change, or they, like you said, they want a side hustle, they want a side business because that makes them happy. I work with all different types of clients. So whether it's someone who runs, a big multi-million-dollar business, or someone who has this dream of starting an Etsy shop. So I love that all my clients are so different.
Yeah, I love that. So kind of describe this this path because you have several things. You've got a podcast, you've got a mastermind. Looks like you're a speaker as well. And just checking out your social media channels. You're quite active. What is kind of describe this area of the influencer? What's the most important skill to have?
The most important skill, I think, to be authentic, and I know that word gets thrown around all the time, but what you see is what you get. So the person I am with you and the person I am with, my family, or, anybody in between, I'm never not the same. So I'm always the same person, no matter where I go. And, for some people that it seemed a little bit much when I was growing up, because I was always that person. But now, a lot of people come to me and they're like, I genuinely like you because everything that you say it's real. And I mean everything that I say. I don't like to sugarcoat things. So if someone asks me my opinion, I'm like, okay, if you ask me for my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion, but just remember you asked me for my opinion. So, and it's just an opinion, right? But same, I love feedback. It could be positive or negative. If someone gives me negative feedback, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what can I do to better myself or better my businesses? And so it's through all of that type of correspondence that I feel like what truly makes me. And I believe in it. I also don't believe in competition, which is funny because I run a lot of competitive sports, but I tell everybody that everything that I do, I do these competitive things, but I'm more like a recreational athlete. So like I got the same medal that the person who crossed the Boston Marathon first got. We both got the same medal. I mean, our times were completely different, but everything that I do, I'm still accomplishing the same thing. It just takes me a little bit longer to get there.
Yeah, I love that. And transitioning into this idea of, we'll get into the idea of sports and recreation and athletics, but what's a venture builder? I'm quite interested in how you describe that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that was a term that a capital investor actually, gave me like 2 years ago because I didn't know what it was. I was like, I want to help other people in business, but I don't have money. He's like, that's called a venture builder. And so a venture builder is like a poor man's, venture capitalist. And I wouldn't say poor man. It's everything that we do is sweat equity. So when we give our information or we partner with somebody, yes, there's money involved, but it's not to the point that, a venture capitalist would turn around and they'd hire somebody like as a consultant or something like that. I'm the person who does like the legwork, connects all the people. And typically when I partner with a business, so I go into partnerships and I typically have like a write out plan. So within a certain period of time, I'll be written out of the business. So they'll go and they'll own it on their own, but it will give them the opportunity to kind of have access to things that they wouldn't necessarily have because a bank won't give them, a $10,000 loan, or they won't, it's hard to get the training or the things that they need to start a business. They have this really great idea, but they have no idea what they're doing. And for me, business is really simple. Like I kind of tell everyone the backbones are all the same, just the business is different. So if you can see that every business is the same, but the product is different, it makes sense in my brain. So I love teaching people those skill sets and kind of giving them those things because to me, it's something that comes easy, right? Like, you have your PhD. That's probably something that came very easy to you. And, there are other people that will never achieve that because it might not be something that comes easy. And so I realized what my skill set was. And I also think personal skills, I think really helps me with the venture building because I'm able to connect with them on a personal level. I've always wanted to be a venture capitalist. I don't come from money. So I've had to kind of earn it all on my own. So my goal someday is to own a, venture capitalist firm and be able to invest in people who don't necessarily have that opportunity.
It's so well spoken, and I love this. It kind of reminds me of this idea of the serial entrepreneur, and just kind of build, like, you love to build, you love to create. Could be through networking, partnerships, and so kind of as you this analogy between sports and a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've talked to are, all of them have been involved in some movement, some athletics, and, so many benefits. So kind of talk about the idea of athletics and how you use that as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So it's funny because, other people actually make the connection between the two that, a lot of people who are serial entrepreneurs, I think a lot of it has to do with, this go, go, go mentality for me. Like it's an outlet. So like when I work out or when I go running, I'm in my own head. I get to listen to podcasts. It's kind of weird. I would have never thought that I'd listen to a podcast when I go running, but now it's like that's kind of what I listen to because some runs are really long. And so for me, I'm able to like be in my head. I can be creative. I can, think about different things, but it just, I don't know. There's something about it. I've always been an athlete, but again, never like a, top of the line athlete. I've always been someone who just, when someone tells you you can't do something, I want to prove to them that no matter what it is, I can do it. You may or may not know this. I have a heart condition. I was diagnosed with it about 11 years ago this month. And 11 years ago this month. And I was told that I would never run a marathon again. And it was the year after I ran my first Boston Marathon. And, when I got that diagnosis, I went and found another doctor. And I went up to Boston and I was like, okay, listen, I want to go back to being an athlete. And the doctor's like, well, I don't know if that's going to be possible. Maybe there's other things that you can do. So I started running Spartan races because it allowed me to run a little bit, but not a lot. And I got my body adapted to that. And then, after that, I was like, well, after I ran my biggest Spartan race that took 7.5 hours, I was like, oh, well, if I can do this, I can run another marathon. So I kind of told myself and my cardiologist, I was like, just to let you know, like I'm going to run a marathon. And that was right before I had a heart attack. And then I had a mild, thankfully no damage. It was a mild heart attack in 2019. And then after that, it was kind of my goal. I was like, I will run a marathon. Like we have to live our lives the best we possibly can. And I want to do things to inspire my children and people around me that if someone tells you you can't do something, I don't care if it took me over 6 hours to finish the Boston Marathon. I crossed that finish line. And I get teary-eyed when I think about it because it seems so far-fetched 11 years ago. And now I'm, inspiring other people to do it. So it means a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the analogy of sports. It's like a lot of the top athletes, they're entrepreneurs at heart. And so they're always trying new training methods, new recovery methods, new diet, whatever work. There's no barriers because it's all human performance. So, which I love. And, when you're applying that to business and mindset, resilience, there's a lot of analogies. So some of the best entrepreneurs are, athletes or former athletes. Fascinating discussion. How can people contact you, follow you, check out your work, reach out to you? You're quite active on Instagram. So
yeah, absolutely. So I'm all over social media. So if you look up Jenn Potter, if anything with Jenn Potter and live your best life, I should pop up on all social media handles because I'm a firm believer in living your best life every single day. And every day is never promised. So that's something that means a lot to me. Shoot me an email, jen@epic47.com. Just reach out. I love having conversations with people.
And for all the audience out there listening, Jenn, for coming onto the show, inspiring story, a lot of parallel about entrepreneurship, business, fitness, personal development. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I hope you really enjoyed that wonderful, inspirational, motivational piece. Again, if you wherever you are listening, if you liked it, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're on everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, Audible. And without much ado, be sure to thank this show's sponsors, and we'll see you next week.